Credit to Baylor. I had a lot of fun yesterday until the game started, or at least until the second half of the game. Weather wasn't very good though, but I did have some fun tailgating. But what an ugly performance by this West Virginia football team. Defense was atrocious in the first half. Offense was atrocious most of the second half. Special teams was atrocious part of the game. The coaching was atrocious the whole game and has been all year and most of 6 years. Enough is enough. That's what I labeled this thumbnail. I had a hard time coming up with what to put on the thumbnail. I started off with just the word ugly because it was an ugly game for West Virginia, an ugly loss. Not trying to discredit Baylor. They're a good football team, but it was an ugly loss. West Virginia did not show up, basically, in the game in a lot of ways. But I thought more and more about it. I said, no, the proper way to label this thumbnail is enough because it's time for change in Morgantown. 6 years of mediocrity is not going to cut it in this program. We're better than that. The state deserves more. The fans deserve more. The school deserves more. The program deserves more. Everyone deserves more. And in a lot of cases, the players deserve more. Because I just don't think they're being coached well enough to win. It's uncanny what some of the things I saw yesterday. Baylor could throw a screen pass and get as many yards almost as they wanted to. All they had to do was just throw a screen pass. I've never seen so many screen passes go for yardage in my entire existence. Our defensive players could not get off blocks in that game. They flat out outmanned West Virginia yesterday in blocking. Flat out outmanned them. Couldn't get off blocks. Tackling wasn't good in the first half. Again, the coverage wasn't good in a lot of ways. Couldn't stop the run in the second half. Receivers can't get open. They struggle to get open. At least most of them do. At least, and do it consistently. We had big drops. The Justin Robinson drop was a huge play in that game. It was a tie ball game, I believe, in the first half. 4th down conversion. Garrett puts it right in his lap and he drops it. That's just one example. The shank punt by Oliver Straw, who's had a great year. I'm not trying to discredit the young man, but he has a terrible punt that really hurt West Virginia. The special teams overall wasn't as good as it had been. The kick coverage wasn't as good. Although Garrett was an absolute warrior, put up over 100 yards on the ground, took a lot of hits after coming back from a head injury. His accuracy was off again. Missed a lot of throws. Even Coach Brown talked about it in his press conference. Missed a lot of throws. Why C.J. Donaldson didn't get the ball more is beyond me. Makes no sense to me. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and talk about the stats. But before we do, I almost forgot to give a shout out to my sponsor. So if you all will hang on for about 35 seconds, I'll be right back. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. All right. Thank you for sitting through that. I appreciate your patience. Going to check in on the chat room real quick to see what we have. Daniel Gigax, yes, I forgot to mention that. Thank you. He says, at least you got to meet Pittsnoggle. I was able to meet. I'm sitting in my seat, and I look up, and I look probably 4 or 5 rows down, and just a couple seats over, I see none other than Kevin Pittsnoggle. And I had my son-in-law, my soon-to-be son-in-law with me at the game. He's very young. He's only 21. He doesn't know who Kevin Pittsnoggle is. I told him to go back and watch some videos, but I said, man, that is my all-time favorite basketball player at West. He said, man, you got to go meet him. You got to go meet him. And I was kind of hesitant because I know Kevin is kind of a personal guy, private guy. He doesn't put himself out there a lot. So I didn't want to be, one of those annoying stalker fans, right? But I thought, you know what, screw it. This might be my only opportunity. So I walked down, and unfortunately the timing wasn't great. They were getting ready to sing the alma mater. But I go down and I said, hey, man, I told him how much I appreciated his time at West Virginia. Told him how he was my favorite all-time player, and I had a lot of great memories and yada, yada. Asked him to take a picture with me, and, of course, he agreed. He's very, very nice, very humble guy. So that was a highlight for me, something I may never get to do again. So thanks for bringing that up, Daniel. I appreciate that. If you all you all know the drill on these live videos. If you want to dictate where the conversation goes, you can drop me a super chat in the chat box. Hit the $sign near the chat box. It'll and type your comment in. It's a small donation you can make to me to support me here on the channel, and it will highlight your comment, and I'll be sure to read it and post it on the screen for you. So, and also my VIP channel members like Daniel Gigax and like WVU Fan 13 will also get their comments highlighted. It says, this game showed me how desperate Neal Brown was to win a game at home. Neal Brown has to go. Should have already happened today. Yeah, things got to change, man. Bowl eligibility to me means not much, to be honest with you. I'm just not excited about a bowl game that, for a 6-6 team, even a 7-5 team at this point. I mean, they've dropped 4 home games for the first time I think I saw since 1990. I think it's only the second time maybe in history, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that they will have a losing record at home. So, I mean, just, again, won't be ranked in the top 25 again after this year. Anytime this year for, Neal Brown still has yet to have West Virginia ranked in the AP top 25. It's just not acceptable. Absolutely not acceptable. And it just continues to be an issue. It's just not good enough. And enough is enough, man. Obviously the change at defensive coordinator did not make much of a difference in yesterday's game. The defense, the struggles that we had seen all year were still there. So that's not changing. But as far as Neal Brown's future goes, I think if he loses the next 2 games, I think he's probably gone. And listen, I have no sources or anything. It's just my gut feeling. We got Dean Colbert in the house. Dean, thanks for joining the show, my brother. He says it was hard to watch that loss last night up close at the game. I feel you, brother. I feel you. It was not fun, was it? Daniel Gigax says 2001 was the last losing record at Mountaineer Field. That was a 3-8 team. Yeah, 2001. Thank you. I don't know why I said ever, but anyway, 2001. Thank you for that stat. But anyway, I think if he loses 2 games, he's not coming back. I feel like if he goes 6-6 and makes a bowl game, they will probably bring him back. As much as we don't want him to, I think we need to accept it. I don't know if we should accept it, but we should probably be prepared for it. I don't think we have to accept it. I think we can make our voice heard and or speak with our voices if we need to with our checkbooks, which I don't know if that's the right move or not, because West Virginia is already in such a financial situation. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but all I know is I think change needs to happen, because here's my theory on this, and I'll get to the stats in a minute. I know I'm kind of rambling here, but I got to get this off my chest. I didn't have a chance to do it where I was at the game and had to travel home today. But anyway, here's my theory on it. There's so much apathy right now in the fan base. You're going to have a hard time selling season tickets next year. You're going to have a hard time getting fans excited about the season if Neal Brown's the coach. Recruiting is going to take a hit. If you need to make changes to your staff, it's going to be hard to make those changes, because let's say, just as an example, if they go try to hire a defensive coordinator, why would any defensive coordinator worth their salt want to come to West Virginia knowing that Neal Brown may be on the hot seat and they may only be here a year? Why would you do that? If you're a defensive coordinator who has other options, why do that and possibly even set your career back? Doesn't make any sense. So it's going to be hard for them to hire assistant coaches for this staff if Neal's does stay and they decide to make staff changes. They had a hard time hiring an offensive coordinator. Yes, they ended up promoting Chad Scott, but I don't think that was I don't think that was their initial plan. They had multiple interviews that didn't work out. Some of those had ties to West Virginia. And some of those turned the job down. And some of that may have been related to Neal's job security after the 2022 season. So it's going to be hard to get assistant coaches. You're losing almost your entire offensive line. You're losing your starting defensive line, most of them. You're losing your starting quarterback. You need something to excite this fan base. If the fan base is not excited, they're not going to spend their money supporting the program. And the only way you get them excited is to bring in new coaches. In my opinion, if you go out and hire a football coach that gets the fan base excited, gets the donors excited, guess what they're going to do? They're going to spend their money. They're going to support the program. They're going to buy tickets. They're going to make MAC Foundation donations. They're going to make NIL donations to Country Roads Trust. Look at the excitement around this basketball season with Darren DeVries. Yes, I know the game against Pitt didn't go well, but there's still some excitement. At least there was going into the year. That can still occur with football, but you can't have that with the status quo. Another thing that hurts is, I don't know, man. The status quo is just not acceptable. But I worry, we have a lame duck president. Are they going to want to force a new football coach on a new president? That concerns me. Maybe the new president's going to want to bring in his own coach. I don't know. There's so many things working against, the financial situation that West Virginia's in that I've talked about ad nauseum that I'm not going to talk about again in this show. That's working against them. Can they afford to pay a buyout and also hire a new staff and coach? It's just a tough situation for West Virginia. Hey, Samuel, congrats to Baylor, man. They played good game. They played a good football game. They were prepared. They executed their game plan really well. They outmanned West Virginia in a lot of ways, especially blocking in the first half. So shout out to them. They did play a good football game. But I don't think Manchin's going to be the new president. I've heard him say in an interview that he has no interest in that job. Now, not saying things can't change, but as of right now, I don't think that's the case. Yeah, credit to Baylor says, I was really careful trying not to say that, WVU Fan 13. He also says, how can MB draw up the perfect opening drive, which he has done before, then can't call a meaningful play the rest of the game? It's because he scripts the opening drive. Opening drive is scripted. After that, they base it on adjustments. This coaching staff, it appears at least, struggles to make adjustments. I heard an interesting stat on the post-game show done by Skylar Callahan and Eugene Napoleon over at Mountaineers on SI, I think it's called, channel. Go check it out. But he talked about how Neal Brown, since Neal Brown's been, or actually this season, I guess, not his tenure, but this season, West Virginia has scored in their home games this year, have scored a total of 3 points in the third quarter. 3 points, which means their halftime adjustments, if they're making any, are not working. So that's not good. That goes back to coaching. At the end of the day, that's all about coaching. Lighton 1, thank you for joining. Says, I'm Keaton Thomas's family member. We sat with a bunch of WVU fans, and they were fantastic and extremely nice. Also, shout out to Couz for mentioning him last week. Thank you. I appreciate that. Keaton Thomas is a fantastic football player, and I really wish West Virginia had kept him and gave him a scholarship because obviously he deserved it. Because look at what he's doing at Baylor now. Just another miss by the staff. Dean Colbert, thanks again. Yes, the climb is officially over. You nailed it on the head, brother. Zach Ranson with the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. He says the amount of times that Baylor easily ran it up the middle for a massive gain or a touchdown was beyond me. Yeah, it's baffling, isn't it? They could not tackle in the second half. Now the defense was worn down by this point, but they could not tackle the Pendergrass kid yesterday. It was unbelievable how much they struggled. Dean, I was okay seeing Garrett back at QB, man. And honestly, his legs were the best offense they had in that game. So, I don't feel like he was the reason they lost. Now, he didn't throw the ball all that great, but without him, I'm not sure they win it anyway. So, I was okay with it. But I mean, he's got to get his passing percentage up. But again, our receivers don't help him out either. They struggle to get separation at times, or a lot of times, I should say. And then Traylon Ray, by the way, hearts and prayers out to Traylon Ray. Boy, that was an ugly injury he suffered in that game yesterday. It looks like he obviously probably a broken ankle, broken foot, something. So hearts and prayers out to him. Thoughts and prayers to him. But he's one of the few guys that can get separation. He and Hudson Clement. It seems like the rest of the guys struggle to do so. This staff has not done a good job of either getting good receivers into the program or developing them one. I don't know which it is. But it's been a struggle. You know, they brought guys in from the portal. They haven't panned out quite that well either. Steve, I'm not worried about anybody living in the portal at this point, man. None. Because, well, it depends. If the coaching staff, if they change coaching staffs, I'm not worried about guys leaving because the new coach will bring in his own players. But if Neal stays, then I think it's crucial to keep guys because you need continuity. You definitely want Nico to stay. You want CJ and Jaheim to stay. You want Hudson Clement to stay. You want Traylon Ray to stay. You know, your top guys. You need your top guys to stay, hopefully. But if they change coaching staffs, I'm not really worried about it, man, because the new staff will bring in players, and then a lot of the guys would still stay even under new staff probably. Yeah, a lot of drops yesterday, Dan. That's why I say I'm not putting this on Garrett. Garrett Green's passing percentage wasn't great, wasn't even good, but a lot of that wasn't on him, man. He was a lot of times he had nowhere to go with the football, nowhere to go. Clark Johnson, I think Jimbo would bring some. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of bringing Jimbo in, but I do think you got a guy with national championship rings, a guy who can recruit like nobody's business, a guy who has connections to the state. He's a native. He knows the game. He's very popular. As far as, he's well known nationally, so he would, there would be some excitement there. I think Jimbo could bring some excitement. I really do. Outside of that, I'm not sure, man. I mean, another G5 coach is not going to bring a whole lot of excitement because we've been down there. Not saying there's not good G5 coaches out there. Now, Garrett Riley, a good coordinator. If you bring in a good Power 5 coordinator, that might bring some excitement, like a Garrett Riley or somebody like that. Brandon Bailey, great point. Brandon's a VIP member here as well. He says it wouldn't have mattered if Nico played. We wouldn't have scored 35 with Nico. Green played his heart out, and defense was the main problem, in my opinion. Bingo. Now, the offense didn't do them any favors in the third quarter. The defense made 3 stops in a row in the third quarter, and the offense did absolutely nothing with it. They could have tied that game and even went ahead in that game multiple times. They didn't. But that being said, the offense or the defense shouldn't have given up 35 points and a half either. So it goes both ways. And there is not one side of the football that played well for the whole game yesterday. The offense played bad in the second half. Defense played bad in the first half. Special teams played bad at times as well. Kotelnicki from Penn State's a hot name out there, Daniel. That's true. And that's a guy that I wouldn't mind seeing get an opportunity. Signetti from Indiana obviously would bring the fans excitement, but I just don't see that as realistic, man. He's coaching at a Big Ten school. He seems happy there. Obviously the Big Ten, we know they're going to be in a better situation financially than the Big 12 going forward. So maybe that's not an exciting move for him. We'll see. They say, and then plus keep chopping. Great point. He just signed an $80 million deal. So how do you get him out of that deal? West Virginia can't afford to pay part of his buyout if he leaves. So that's not happening. I really don't think you have a lot of options other than a coordinator, a G5 coach, or Jimbo. That's really your options right there, right? And Blake just said he signed an 8-year extension. Thank you, Blake, for that information. I didn't know that. What's up, Kenny? Thanks for hopping in, brother. A lot of people do want Rich Rod hard pumps, but there's also a lot that don't. That's my issue with Rich Rod. If you bring Rich Rod in, you are basically going to lose half the fan base. And I just don't think that's a good idea. Sorry, guys, I'm glancing over at the Buffalo game. Somebody just committed a turnover. Buffalo just turned the ball over. Oh, my Lord. That ain't good. Anyway, throw my Bills hat on here. I'm a Bills fan, for those of you who don't know. And they're playing the Chiefs right now. But anyway, you lose half the fan base if you bring Rich Rod back, in my opinion. I wouldn't have an issue with it, but there's a lot who would because of the way he left and all the controversy that surrounded it. You may have a lot of the donors who may not be. Now, Ken Kendrick I'm sure would be okay with it because he and Rich Rod are pretty close. But a lot of the other donors may not like the idea, so he left in such a controversial manner, man. It might not be a good idea to bring him back just because of the division it could cause in the fan base and in the donor base more than anything. All right. Gave up on Bill. I had given up on him for a while too, Jupiter. And then they brought Josh Allen in and got me excited to be a fan again. Blake says bring in the OC the Penn State OC. Would have a lot of excitement, possibly bring over some players. Maybe that's possible. But I mean, their offense hasn't been great at times this year, to be honest with you. But man, he can draw up some creative stuff, man. He's an awesome play caller. Urban Meyer might be bored. Yeah, I don't know about Urban Meyer, man. I don't think we can afford Urban Meyer, to be honest. Daniel Gigak says, read Couz's book, Waiting for the Fall. It goes through the raw drama. I didn't even know Couz wrote a book, Daniel, so I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. You know what? I haven't even brought up the stats yet, have I? You guys may have already seen these by now. So if you have, I apologize, but I haven't really looked at them yet. So you guys are looking at them with me. First downs. Baylor's on the left for West. Let me take the dark mode off of here so you guys can see this better. All right, here we go. First downs, it was 29-26, edge to West Virginia. Third down efficiency. West Virginia continues to struggle on third down. 5 of 13 offensively, and allowed Baylor to convert on 8 of their 13 first downs. So just terrible third down defense again by the Mountaineers. Total yards, 499 for West Virginia, 512 for Baylor. So the offense put up yards yesterday. 35 points will win you some football games, but not when you give up 49. Passing, 237 for the Mountaineers on 19 of 39 passing for Garrett Green. Average 6.1 yards per pass. Did have the one interception. Let's see. Rushing, it's 262 yards rushing for the Mountaineers. Garrett Green was a big part of that as well. Had 5.3 yards per rush. Only committed 3 penalties. That was a positive. The interception was the only turnover. And they actually won the time of possession battle, 31-53 to 28-07. So West Virginia played well enough to win in a lot of areas, but the problem was the areas that were bad were extremely bad. I mean, look, Sawyer Robertson, 26 of 36 for 329 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just could not do anything in the pass coverage game. The defense could not. Rushing, Bryson Washington had carried it 18 times for 123 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dawson Pendergrass, I mentioned him. He ran hard in the second half. 11 carries, 68 yards and a touchdown. When you look at West Virginia, Garrett Green was the leading rusher, 22 carries, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jaheim White, 16 carries, 67 yards. C.J. Donaldson, 9 carries, 60 yards. That's over 6 yards a carry. Why did you not give him the football more than 9 times? I just do not understand the play calling decisions. Maybe there were times Garrett was supposed to hand it to CJ and he chose not to. I don't know. But when you have a guy that's playing at that level, get him the freaking football. Okay? It's 2 weeks in a row now I've said that. Now they won the Cincinnati, or maybe, I don't know if it was 2 in a row, but I remember recently I mentioned the same thing in the game. I think it was Jaheim White in that game. He didn't get the ball enough. You've got a guy who's playing at a high level, getting the football. Y'all talked about, somebody in the chat mentioned, who are you afraid to lose? Well, if you don't start getting guys the football, they're going to leave. And when you have a guy like CJ he was averaging 6 yards a carry. Give him the football, for crying out loud. Then Rodney Gallagher had 2 carries for 6 yards. Them giving him the football on those reverses just never works. I don't know why they continue to even do it. Look at receiving. Hudson Clement had 71 yards receiving with 3 catches, so he had a nice day. Cole Taylor caught 5 passes for 56 yards, and he caught that late touchdown from Garrett. Treylon Ray, 3 catches, 22 yards and a touchdown on the day as well. Rodney Gallagher, 2 catches, 19. Day Farmer had a catch for 16 yards. Jaheim White, Preston Fox, CJ all had catches. On Baylor, Josh Cameron, 5 catches, 101 yards and a touchdown. Monterey Baldwin, 3 catches, 82. Bryson Washington, 5 catches, 59. Ashton Hawkins, 750. Man, look at these numbers, man. Good grief. Just gaudy numbers by these Baylor receivers. Keaton Thomas, the former Mountaineer, had 12 tackles on the day for with a sack and a TFL. Matt Jones, 6 tackles on the day as well. And then the interception was from – who got the interception? It was Corey Gordon Jr. got the interception for Baylor. And then Jamal Bell had 3 kick returns for 81 yards. So he had a nice day. So just – that was Baylor, by the way. Yeah, so just not good numbers, especially for that West Virginia defense. Garrett Green played his butt off. Heart of a lion. Young man just continues to – I mean, even it's never pretty. He's not going to give you a 70% passing percentage, but he just guts things out and makes plays with his legs and his guts. I mean, that's when you've got a kid who plays that hard, man. How do you not play him? I don't know. This game's not on Garrett Green. Without him, I'm not sure they even have a chance in that game. Now, maybe they do, but again, if your receivers can't get open, I don't care who your quarterback is. If Nico had been the quarterback, if he don't have anybody to throw it to, it doesn't matter. So what's your option? You put in the guy that can run the football and be electric with the football in his hands. And there's a part of me that thinks that might be why they went with Garrett yesterday, because they know the coaching staff knows that their receivers are struggling to get open. And so what do? If you got to tuck it and run, would you rather have Nico doing that, or would you rather have Garrett doing that? I personally would rather have Garrett doing that as long as he's healthy. So I thought, personally, I think playing Garrett was the right move yesterday. But he had no help from his defense and very little help from his offensive teammates. So can't put it all on him. Like I said, he ran the ball 122 yards and 2 scores. So he did his part, in my opinion. Let's go back to the comments section here, see what we got. Looks like we got another super chat. Mr. John Marzula. He says, I know I'm a Pitt fan, but maybe Rhett Lashley reminds me of the explosive WVU teams. Yeah, that's an interesting name. The problem there is Rhett Lashley's in the, SMU's in the ACC now, so I'm not sure that may be he may look at that as a lateral move. Interestingly enough, Rhett Lashley's offensive line coach is Gavin Justice, who actually used to play at West Virginia. He was on some of those West Virginia teams with Pat White and those guys. I think he was at least I think that's the area he played in. Garin Justice. Did I say Gavin? It's Garin Justice. I apologize. But he's the offensive line coach at SMU right now under Rhett Lashley. That's an interesting name, though, that I hadn't heard, John. I appreciate you mentioning that. I'm going to put that on the screen there before I forget. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Most Pitt fans come in my chat and talk junk to me, so thank you for being respectful. And trash talk is okay as long as it's respectful. Usually it's just trolling on their part. Let me see what else we got. I've got a lot of people. If you're watching this on X, first of all, thank you very much. I really appreciate the support. Be sure to come over and check out my YouTube. Be sure to come over to my YouTube channel, check out my past videos, my past live shows, and please subscribe to the channel over there, and make sure you leave a thumbs up on this live stream for me. If you're watching right now live on YouTube, hit the X in the top corner of the chat box, hit the thumbs up button. This is if you're watching on a mobile device. X out of the chat room, hit the thumbs up right below the video, and then all you got to do is hit the chat again, and it'll bring the live chat right back up. It's really easy. Or you can just hit like on your way out if you want to. And if you're watching it on the replay, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, please. It really helps that algorithm, and we'll push this sucker out to more people. Daniel Gig X says, how about the next head coach or former defensive coordinator? It might help. Yeah, I've actually said that, Daniel. West Virginia has went the offensive coach route the last, taking out Bill Stewart. Rich Rod was an offensive guy. That worked, obviously. Dana was an offensive guy. Had some little bit of success there. And then Neil has been maybe going a different route's the way to go. I don't know. Maybe someone like, I don't know, the defensive coordinator at Georgia, Glenn Schumann, I think's his name. That's a name I've seen brought up a couple times. Yeah, there's some, there's a lot of people who would like to have Tony Gibson as the head coach at West Virginia. I can be convinced maybe, but I'm kind of in 50-50 on that one. I do think Gibby deserves a chance to be a head coach somewhere. Is he ready for a Power 5 job, though? I'm not sure. But, he's a name that's been brought up before. There are a lot of good defensive coaches out there who I'm sure would love to have a shot at being a head coach, and I'd be okay with it. Yep. John says he'd like the brawl to be between two great teams and not a mid-off, so it would be much watch TV every. And John, that's a great point, man. Yep, Clark, we're on the same page, man. Glenn Schumann. See, Garrett has some athletic ability, but I wonder what that game looks like with Nico at quarterback. It's a fair question, but again, I just, I watching it live, it didn't look to me like receivers were getting open anyway. So, would Nico have been able to throw them open? Maybe, I don't know. It's a fair question. Daniel says he played against Tony Gibson. That's interesting. He says he's done with Tony's 3-3-5. Sam Ventura says. Let me see what other comments we have in the chat here. Daniel Gigax says, I got it years. Let me see. I don't want to. That's a conversation in the chat. Big Aaron in the house. Thank you, Big Aaron. Joe Parrish, Luke Bryant, Michael Wilson, D. Lovey. Thank you all for. We got Adam Baum 286. Says Renbecker was very specifically looking at candidates with head coach experience when he was looking for the new basketball coach. I wonder if he would feel the same in football. It's a great point. And if that is the case, then you're probably going to get another G5 coach or someone like a Jimbo Fisher. That's really going to be your best options. I don't think you're going to get Chris Peterson out of retirement. I don't think you're getting Urban Meyer. I don't think we can afford anybody like that, to be perfectly honest. And those guys seem to be happy in broadcasting. So, and those guys are probably old school coaches who don't like the new landscape of college sports and may not want to get back in it right now. I tell you a coach that I would be curious to see what your all's opinion is on, and that's Charles Huff at Marshall. Marshall's playing really good right now. They have one of the top defenses in the country. They have a defensive back in J.J. Roberts, who's, last I checked, was leading the nation in interceptions. He wanted to come to West Virginia, guys, and West Virginia said no. He's playing at an elite level right now at Marshall. I understand it's a G5 school, so the competition is not quite up to the Big 12, but I'm telling you, he's playing at a high level. They have a young man who leads the country in sacks right now, or at least he's one of the top in sacks. Marshall has a lot of good talent on that team. I think Charles Huff came up under Nick Saban. So he's had good tutelage. He has a very good background. He's came from worked for some of the best coaches in the industry. So, I think Charles Huff deserves a look as well. Let me see. I'm not going to stay on here a whole lot longer, guys, because I want to finish watching this Bills-Chiefs game. But, yeah, Paul Gee, I'd love to have Nick Saban. I just don't think that's realistic. Nick Saban obviously retired for a reason. If he didn't feel like he wanted to deal with NIL and stuff at Alabama, what makes you think he'd want to come to West Virginia where it's going to be even more challenging? Marshall is a team nobody wants to play. Dave Maynard, you nailed it. Daniel Gigax says Marshall is okay. Issue with Huff is just another Sun Belt coach. Yes, he was at Alabama at one time, but Brown also had the same resume. Yeah, that's fair, Daniel. That's a very, very fair statement. But what about John Sumrall? Now, John Sumrall was an assistant under Brown, who some out there say he was a huge part of the reason they had so much success at Troy was because John Sumrall was there and the players loved him. Now he was an assistant, I get it, but players are around assistants more than they are the head coach. Mick Muffin says WVU fans were first class. Baylor fan here that attended the game. Hoping you guys get it figured out and turn around. Thank you so much. I ran into two Baylor fans at the game yesterday. I made sure to go up and welcome them to West Virginia. Told them I hope they enjoyed their time. I always try to do that because I think it's important that we show the hospitality that us West Virginians, are known for, to make sure that any negative press out there gets overshadowed by positive. So thank you for sharing that information there, Mick. I really appreciate it. Anyway, back to the conversation. John Sumrall is now at Tulane, and they're doing pretty good too. So he has experience past the Sun Belt now. He does have a year under his belt at Tulane. So, maybe John Sumrall, Daniel, I'd be anxious to get your thoughts on John Sumrall. Would you rather have John Sumrall than somebody like Charles Huff? What's up, Gamecock Chuck? If you guys want to hear about South Carolina sports, that's your guy right there. Go check out Gamecock Chuck. Does a lot of good content. And by the way, just a reminder, I do have the Hoops from the Hills channel now, guys, where I cover West Virginia basketball. We are trying to do some coverage of the women's team. So if you guys want to keep up with the women's team, go check out Shauna actually just uploaded a video this morning that Shauna Rose did over on the channel covering the women's team. They had 2 big wins this week over Pitt and Texas A&M, 2 Power 4 schools, and they blew them out. They blew them both out. This women's team is special this year, guys. They have a chance to do something really special. They're loaded with talent. They got that really exciting style of play with the full court press. Go check out Shauna's video on the women's team. I think she will appreciate it. I will appreciate it. And, keep in mind, Shauna is new at YouTube. And also I have Zach Siegel over there doing some coverage as well of the men's team along with Shauna. So keep them, but go support that if you don't mind, if you like West Virginia men's. And I'm doing content over there as well when I can. Daniel Gigak says, I would love Summerall, but I don't see him leaving for a WVU when I think he is wanting an SEC job. And that's fair. Andrew Galvin in the house, another VIP member, says, my Steelers are riding high and you beating the Chiefs help the Steelers. Thank you, man. Anybody beating the Chiefs is good in my book, right? But especially if it's my team. Wonder how long Brent Venables stay at Clemson also. You mean Oklahoma, I assume. Yeah, there's some Oklahoma fans trying to push him out the door. There are fans that aren't happy at Oklahoma State. Not saying Gundy's an option, but Neil Brown's not the only coach that fans are not happy with right now. It's got to be the Better King who's a better fan in the house. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to jump off of here. Oh, Andrew, another comment says, Couz, this convo can wait. Bills need your attention and support. Take down the Chiefs for me. And then WV Fan 13 had said, Ricky Ronne at ODU. He knocked off VT 2 of the last 3 seasons, has an offensive scheme that would fit a mobile QB. I'll have to look that one up. I appreciate that's a name I was not familiar with. I'll have to look him up, WV Fan 13. Thank you for pointing him out. All right. I'm going to jump off here. I really appreciate everybody tuning into this live show. Thanks for supporting me here. Be sure to go check out my other videos. Be sure to check out Hoops from the Hills. Hope the rest of your day is top shelf and Q Country Roads. Oh, and go Bills.